What is up, guys? It is Joe. We're back. We're talking all about the Cats, specifically K-State football in today's video, and don't click off when you hear me say that. I know it's a sore subject after losing to Iowa State on Saturday. I'm past it, folks, because we have such a bigger thing to cover in today's video. I know it was a disappointing finish to the season, and there's still a bowl game ahead to focus on. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. We'll see what happens there. But folks, we've got a big thing to talk about, and it is the transfer portal. It's a storyline that never goes away in college sports, and it has absolutely zero regulation. That being said, you can benefit from it, you can run from it, whatever the case is, it gets here all the same. We're going to talk about one specific player in the transfer portal. I know there's a lot to talk about who's going, who's coming, who's staying, whatever the case is. There's going to be a lot of dudes we cover on this channel this offseason. It's going to be possibly the biggest offseason of all time for college sports because roster sizes are cutting from whatever is 124 to 105. You've also just got high-name dudes hitting the portal left and right every which way for NIL reasons, for playing time reasons, for fit reasons, get back close to home. There's a plethora of reasons that guys are going to stay or guys are going to go. Either way, you got to embrace it and you got to get through it. Kansas State has a way to embrace it with one specific player. You can see him in the thumbnail. He's been a hot commodity to talk about the last couple weeks as a potential portal guy. I hadn't mentioned it previously, but I had heard some of the suspicions of him entering the portal. That player is Kevin Concepcion, KC Concepcion, a superstar receiver for NC State. And in case that name sounds familiar, he gave us the work in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. I know Kansas State won that game, but KC was cooking us left and right. And you can go back and watch the highlights and see him do that. Now, before I do get specifically into today's video topic, let me tell you this. Guys, as we go through the transfer portal, there's going to be a ton of information every which way. I'm going to try to jump on top of it, make as many videos as I can, as long as it's related to Kansas State. I don't want to just be throwing stuff at the wall and hoping it sticks. That being said, if Kansas State's mentioned, if there's a good fit, if there's something here that to cover, I'm going to be on it. So be sure and hit the subscribe button because you don't want to miss out on any transfer portal talk, as well as covering K-State basketball this season. But guys, let me jump into it right now and talk about our guy KC. Now, the first thing I have to mention, absolutely the first thing that comes to mind, how is Kansas State related to this prospect? How does Kansas State connect to these prospects? Because you think about it, in the transfer portal, there's all the hypotheticals of, hey, a good receiver hit the portal, we need a receiver, let's make this happen. There's a lot of stuff lost in translation that just isn't that smooth. You don't have an entry point, you don't have a contact, you don't have a proximity to home, you don't have XYZ thing. There always need to be at least one point of contact to get that thing started. Sometimes dudes just say, you know what, I like Kansas State, I'm going there, that's cool. But more often than not, like you see it in basketball, a guy's from Branson, Missouri that's close enough, go talk to him. A guy's from the KC area, you go talk to him. Hey, I played for Rodney Perry at Link Academy, let me go talk to him. In football, it's the same concept. It's, hey, I grew up in the KC metro area, I went out of state, let me come closer to home. Hey, I have this connection to the program because my sister, my stepsister used to play volleyball there. Hey, I had this situation. KC Concepcion has a perfect connection to Kansas State, and folks, it developed just recently. In case you missed it, younger brother of KC Concepcion, Nunu Concepcion, commits to Kansas State, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and that's a big addition in its own right. I don't want to water down his commitment whatsoever. He is a dang good player, and I cannot wait to see him hit the ceiling at Kansas State. See him on the field. I think he's a dang good football player and will quickly rise up the ranks. But it also got people thinking and saying, you know what? Kevin's also a guy that people think could hit the transfer portal. And in that case, you'd say, okay, Kansas State needs a dominant receiver. They need a playmaker, an explosive guy that can come in and be wide receiver one. Folks, you got him. You found KC Concepcion. Let me read you his stats here, and I'm also going to toss up some highlights as I do that. So cue the highlights. These are stuff from KC's career. He's got multiple 10, 12, 15-minute videos, on YouTube of just highlight. The dude is a human highlight reel. That's the best way to say it about KC. But in his freshman season alone, the man won ACC Player of the Year honors because he had more than 1,100 all-purpose yards as a true freshman. That sounds insane because it is. The dude could absolutely play, and Kansas State was one of the dudes on the receiving end of that in that Pop-Tarts Bowl game. KC finished his freshman year with 71 grabs for 839 yards and 10 scores. That's averaging 11.8 yards per catch. And just in case you think, well, he's a talented dude when you get him the ball in space, how do we do this, he can also help in the rushing attack. 41 carries for 320 yards. That's averaging 7.8 yards per carry. Whether it's end arounds, in the highlight tape, you'll see a quick little off-tackled situation. KC Concepcion can do anything you request of him. Now, sophomore year, his numbers dropped a little bit, largely in point to if you watched NC State, there's a lot of quarterback issues. They didn't have a solid quarterback all year long, multiple guys injured. You had guys jumping around and all this, so on and so forth. There wasn't a reliable presence there. Kansas State has Avery Johnson. You've got a reliable quarterback that is a big-time playmaker. Now, for KC this season, he had 53 grabs for 460 yards, 6 touchdowns on the season. Then in the rushing game, 19 carries for 36 yards and 2 scores. The 5'11", 187-pound sophomore is a dude that, there's a lot of dudes you can compare him to. He has a lot of DeAnthony Thomas in his game. He's got a lot of this stuff where you get him the ball in space, nobody's making the tackle. I mean, Deuce Vaughn was such an unshakable dude. Like, you could not stop Deuce Vaughn in open field situations. KC Concepcion has that. Obviously, it's a receiver versus a running back, but he has that where you're not going to cover him one-on-one, and you're not going to stop him in space. That is such a beautiful combo to have. Now, because it's early in the transfer portal and because he's a dang good football player, KC Concepcion currently checks in as the second overall player in the portal and the #1 receiver in his class. That's ahead of Micah Hudson for Texas Tech, who is a former five-star prospect, didn't play much his freshman year. KC Concepcion is absolutely that dude, a 4-star prospect right now, 93 on the 247 Sports Index in terms of the transfer portal prospect. But in his career with NC State, to sum it all up, if you want to add it up, he had 124 grabs for 1,299 yards and 16 touchdowns. He also carried the rock 60 times for 356 and 2 scores. This is a dude that can change the outlook of your season. Seriously. And I'm not going to sit here and say Kansas State's the only team that's going to be involved or the front runner for this case. KC's going to have offers from literally everybody in the portal. Everybody will want KC Concepcion. But with Kansas State, you have the tie with his little brother Nunu. And you have an offense that needs exactly KC. You have whatever you want to offer. You know, you can't promise playing time all the time, but this is a dude that will step on as wide receiver 1. You think about the young guys behind him. You got Trey Spivey, who's a big-bodied 6'4" jump ball receiver. Mix him into there. That is thunder and lightning on the field and a beautiful thing to see. And that's not even mentioning if you pick anybody else up. But the point of this season, like you saw it with Avery Johnson this year, at some point, you didn't have enough playmakers around him. And there was times where you had a young guy situation here or there. You had a young guy moment, and Avery learned from that. He continued to get better. If you look at his season sophomore-wise compared to every other sophomore in the history of the program, Avery clears everybody. That's an insane thing to say out loud. But as this thing unwinds, because KC is going to have a crazy recruitment, with Kansas State, it's one where you got to lean on the family ties. Because you think about it, his younger brother originally committed to NC State. It wasn't a situation where he committed to K-State off the rip. He commits to NC State and then flips his commitment to Kansas State because he loved the hometown feel, he loved the family environment, loved the coaching staff, everything going on there, and the exciting future ahead. KC Concepcion fits that same role of a dude that could lean into the family aspect while literally playing with family. Now, it's going to be something to watch because I don't know how these recruitment processes go, whether it's, hey, we can get you on campus today, we can get him on tomorrow, we can do this. But you know this is going to be a tight contest. It's just about the matter of prioritizing the kid because he is a dang good football player, and I had to update you guys, folks. Kevin Concepcion, if he hits the portal, that's a major sign that Kansas State needs to go all out for this kid because he would immediately be a first-team All-Big 12 type receiver and Avery Johnson's best target, a developing superstar at Kansas State. But that's pretty much going to do it for today's video, guys. I just wanted to kind of touch on the opportunity, and I'll have some more stuff like this as it happens, whether it's guys going elsewhere or guys coming in. But I just wanted to talk about KC because he is a star, and I cannot wait to see what happens with him in the portal. I'll probably have a basketball video here in a day or two discussing the massive win, 120 points on the board in the last outing for Kansas State basketball. But guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for all the support. If there's any update to the KC Concepcion recruitment, I will jump back and hit you with a video. Guys, have a wonderful rest of your day. I will talk to you soon. Go Cats.